hit this, okay? And I'm going to find this for you, and I want to play it right into exactly what we talked about, okay? Let me play this right here. This is Pete Hegseth. Hello. This is the Loon. You guys, okay, first, this is our weekly charge up today. And I am very, very happy that I was able to do this for you today. Let me apologize for not being able to do my weekly charge up on my normal day. It's been hectic. Life has taken a toll. Today's date is March 31st, 2025. First, please excuse me. It's late. It's a Monday, and I got off work. So I had to work yesterday. And I was too exhausted to kick in my weekly episode for on Sunday. I was so out of it, you wouldn't have got anything coherent out of me. First, I'd like to make some special announcements. Today is the birthday of someone I find near and dear to me. So I'm just gonna say happy birthday, Becca. That's the birthday announcement. And now let's do our recap before we just have our free for all talk, which is something I haven't done in a while. Actually, I don't think I've ever done it. Last week we discussed dealing with adults going through dementia. And sorry, train going by. And let me just say, I feel the emotional toll that it takes when even being in a satellite zone when dealing with someone going through dementia. It's a bit difficult. But with the proper care, it can get better, knowing that they're in a safe environment and they're not left to their own devices does help. And it also teaches you that, you know what? Sometimes you can't control everything. Which brings me to the topic I wanted to touch upon this week, but necessarily I was unable to touch on it because I realize it is a topic that I touch on. So I realize it's a topic that I'm just going to have to interject everywhere because it goes everywhere. And that's being mindful. When dealing with situations like that, you have to be mindful of your emotions. You have to be mindful of how you feel. Don't disregard them. I don't know why people think that um, when you're dealing with mindfulness, it means disregarding. It does not mean disregarding. It means understanding, accepting the feelings you're feeling, but also acknowledging where they fit, whether you can control it, the situation, or whether you can't. Those of you that have possibly seen any of my buddy checks, I usually start my buddy checks with the Serenity Prayer. And I think I might start this episode with the Serenity Prayer. Because the Serenity Prayer, believe it or not, has been something I've been saying a lot. Because like I said, life happens. Now, if you've watched my earlier episodes, I did mention that I'm going through perimenopause. That's horrible. I'm going to tell you. Thank goodness I have a significant other that's very patient with me. Because let me tell you, the emotional outbursts, my mindfulness actually helps me realize when I'm going through it with emotional outbursts. And I can't say it helps it be more controllable? Why do why am I uh, so adamant about mindfulness? I'm going to share a story with you and I'll help put it in perspective. When shortly after I got married, my ex mother in law was going through perimenopause. Holy crap, she scared the mess out of me. Now, mind you, my mother and my grandmother that lived with me, my mother's mother, I never knew when they were going through it. Well, if you grew up in a Haitian household, or if you're first generation like I am, adults tend to they're set in their ways when they come from another country. And, sometimes they're a bit rough. Uh, and it comes par for the course. So it's either that they just continued being their ornery and opinionated selves with their brutal honesty. That's what I call it, being brutally honest. So I didn't notice that they were going through a quote unquote change. Now I'm quite the opposite. Um, I am a cheery go lucky person, although if you've seen me, if you've seen my videos, you see me on the street and I'm going to work or I'm at work, I have developed throughout the years a resting bitch face. It really does help because despite being emotional, perimenopause also means you have aches and pains. And, it's also, I think it's more, you get a little bit ornery because the reality, the reality that you're not going to stay young forever. And every daredevil, that's the best way I could put it, activity you've ever done that you overlooked comes to roost. I don't know how it is for males. That might be a question I bring up to Luke when in one of our talks. But in my opinion, he handles it better than me. I'm having a rough time. There's a reason why we have retirement at a certain age, and I think it's that age where we're like, okay, we can't take it enough. Now, I did find motivation because while I was on my job, I was shown a woman who was, I felt embarrassed, who was in her 80s. She's an island woman. I think she's from Jamaica. And this woman did jumping jacks. And I tell you what, she looked like a 5-year-old woman. A 5-year-old child, not a woman, a 5-year-old child in this elderly woman's body. I was embarrassed because I haven't been able to do jumping jacks since I was in my 20s due to back injuries. And I'm like, okay, if she could do it, in the back of my mind, I'm like, if she could get there, I could get there. So hopefully I could get there. But that in mind, we have things that happen in our life that sideswipe us. Dealing with an adult with the dementia, it could sideswipe you, but if you take the proper precautions, check my previous episode from last week. If you put certain things in place, it will not be so traumatic. But there are things in life that you just can't plan. For example, the reason why I'm doing this show on a Monday night after a very long day of work is one of those things. I had to be at a site. I had to work. Um, this weekend, when it rains, it pours. That particular saying is true. When it rains, it pours. And there are times where I like to separate my day job from my personal life. Um, I like to set those boundaries. Those are the boundaries I think everybody should have. I've been watching videos from uh, from different content creators that I like, and one of them they like to review TikToks. Very few times will you see me review TikToks, although I will reference videos. I'll try to reference videos that I watch uh, and put links when I talk about them in details in the comment section. But during this one, it was one of the creators I do listen to when I'm not here and I'm winding down from work. And it was someone mentioned it was an elderly man who got laid off from his job, um, who follows. I say he didn't say it, but I would say he follows his theory is que sera, sera. Pick up your boots, pull up your big girl, big boy panties, and move on. And he made one important comment. He was like, "Your coworkers are not your friends." And I thought there was something wrong with me for that, because I know a lot of my coworkers that I've worked with, I don't talk to. Yeah, I see them on Facebook, and some of them I still talk to, and I find them near and dear. And I tell you what, they've helped me guide me in so many things. But we don't have that regular talking basis that you had at work. But a lot of times, and I've learned the hard way as I've moved on from those wonderful environments, sometimes you end up in environments where your coworkers aren't your friends. After you leave that job, you got to realize they're not going to be there. That being said, also, life happens. Received bad news. I'm not going to get into details because I didn't ask permission for to share names, but someone I considered a sister from another mother lost her mother, who was a mother to me for a very a very long time. Even we weren't on a daily basis again due to the vast pond that separates us. But it hurts. Mindfulness. It hurts me that she's hurting, and I know what she's going through only because a couple of years prior I lost my father. And I tell you what, it was the calls from her, and I check in on her, but sometimes you wish you could do more. She's going through a lot. Everybody goes through a lot. Um, you hit a certain, actually, I want to say you hit a certain age, but it's not age. In this day and age, no one's promised tomorrow. I'll say that again. No one is promised tomorrow. So when you're dealing with grief, when you're dealing with the loss, the first thing you're overwhelmed. First of all, especially if you're a child, you're overwhelmed. You have to do funeral and arrangements, which you didn't plan on, because in our hearts and in our minds, and I'm going to say this, I'm saying this from a personal stance. In our hearts and in our minds, no matter what the relationship is with our parents or whoever we consider the parent figure in our life growing up, we feel that they will live forever. And it's a harsh reality check when we have to face, forced to face, that they don't. You're overwhelmed, unfortunately, in this world with funeral costs. Um, you go through the stages of grief. And if you're a friend outside within the orbit, you wish you could help, you wish you could do more. Well, life happens and we learn from life. Try to put yourself in a position where you won't feel that, how can I say, helpless. Also, All right, you may not be able to help someone monetarily, but what can you do? What are your talents? Sometimes just giving someone a call. I remember so many people I wasted that call with, that call to, that they didn't appreciate it. That's what I meant, wasted. I don't personally feel like I wasted. I feel like I made that effort. But just because someone may have wasted it, or you feel jilted, or you feel hurt, doesn't mean that the next person that requires those soft words from you, those kind words, those gentle hands, they don't deserve it. Don't ever make someone else pay for what others have done. We have to be, especially now in this world, I'm starting to see a lot of um, a loss of humanity, loss of self, loss of heart. How about doing this week? Know your heart. You know your heart. And by keeping your boundaries, be selective. It doesn't matter if you have a personal conflict with somebody, personality conflict, you feel that you've been hurt, or they feel that you've been hurt, or they haven't treated you, quote unquote, the way you feel you deserve to be treated. Um, Take a moment and think about the humanity. Sometimes a simple word, or actually sometimes no words, sometimes a simple ear, not listening to respond, not listening to give your advice or what you think they should do, just letting them get it off their chest, no matter who it is, does help. Help participate in humanity. Um, if you've lost somebody recently, and when I mean recently, I mean ever, you could be doing them great honor. Um, After my father died, I made a complete 360 because I felt that my life should be lived in a way to honor my father. Whether I'm doing a good job or not, time will tell. What have I done? My father was very independent. So I don't worry about the opinions of others. What other people think of you is none of your business. Um, Live your life. If they've been an example for you, live your life in that way. Be the example that they were for you, for others. Um, and my friend, she was the mirror of her mother, but 2.0, which was an improvement. So she perfected on perfection. And that's what children do. They perfect on perfection. There's a reason why they always say that saying is um, judge by the fruit. Your children are your example. You raise your children right, they want to do good and represent you in the world in that same manner. You may not understand it sometimes, uh, but if they, in honor of you, they will always live their life to the truest. I see that in my siblings, even the ones I don't get along, but they're not living to honor me because I'm only their sibling, but they do, a few of them, live up to the honor of my parents in ways that I can't. Um, they produce offspring that I'm proud to call my niece and nephew. Now, what about other things in life? Work. Work happens. We spend most of our time at work. And work is where we put most of our energies outside of relationships that we're in, outside of work. And I'm starting to learn that in the same way I'm separating the two, and most people separate the two, some people try to combine the two and they end up with hurt feelings. That's why I always say coworkers don't equal friends. Although we tend to think that because we spend most of our times with coworkers outside of when we want to spend most of our times with the people we do consider friends. Actually, it's funny because I end up not seeing the people I consider friends as much. Um, just because you have that boundary doesn't mean you don't give it your all. Okay, maybe I said that wrong. You give it the best of yourself for that job. You put your studies. When I say studies, I believe in reading. I study a lot of stuff. I'll be doing book reviews separately. So you'll see where my reading goes. But you study, if you're doing professional studies, you study towards perfecting your craft, which is your job. And if your job is not what you consider your craft, um, hmm, maybe you want to start studying for what you want to be your craft and your job. And you go out there, you put yourself out there and you work. But life happens. Sometimes you don't have the funds to do that. Sometimes you don't have the funds to go to school. Life happens. But just because life happens does not mean you cannot improve. It does not mean you can't learn a lesson. I want to get my finances in order. So guess what I did? I jumped on YouTube and I found all these influencers, podcasters that talk about it. I follow successful podcasters that are successful in their business to the point where YouTube is their business, or they have side businesses, or they found their niche. One day I'll find my niche. Um, I plan on doing the gardening. That's another thing to distract you from life happenings is sometimes do a hobby, gardening, cooking. I'm going to be talking about city homesteading. Just because you live in an apartment, a studio apartment, does not mean you can't grow your own food if you want. You can't organize, you can't can, you can't use discounts. You could live. Um, if you if you find yourself in a brink of being homeless, which is happening to a lot of people, and I live in New York City, I always mention this, and homelessness is rampant. Um, and the places people choose to reside, maybe if I get footage and I'll do that, I'll do a show on that one time. There's always someone less fortunate than you. You have to remember that. But just because you may be going down that path, once you realize you're going down that path, does not mean you can't turn things around. Again, I'm going to keep saying it throughout this particular episode. Life happens. You don't have the time to put into what you want to, or you're too tired. I was speaking to a young gentleman within my field. And one thing about people who work in IT, they're always, their mind is always going. It's like a geek. They're always looking to the future, trying to figure out what's going on. And we were talking about AI. Now, I'm saying this story because it fits into everybody's career. There's always a development within the career you're in or job you're in that makes you worry about whether you will become obsolete. Especially with the development of AI, everybody's worried. Now, I have my pros and cons when it comes to AI. I'm going to keep my opinion to myself. But he shared with me that he was afraid that our job would become obsolete. And I was like, what do you mean it would be obsolete? Why would you think it would be obsolete? Now, mind you, I'm speaking from a person who's been in this field for a few decades. We're just going to leave it at that. And there were plenty of times throughout my career where I was like, oh, the technology is developing so much that I'm going to be obsolete. Once the minute you start thinking you're going to be obsolete, you will be obsolete, but you won't. There will always be a need, even though your current position may not be a need, but there will always be a need for some form within that genre of career. In other words, you have to change your mindset. Be mindful, accept the feelings that, okay, I'm feeling this about this. But always remember, for every problem, there is always a solution. Life does happen, but life happens in a way where you have to find the solution. You are the solution. Because if you didn't notice a problem, your first act in this is you discovered there may be a problem. They may be an issue. And you have two choices in that situation. You could either sit there and go, woe is me. Oh my God, this is going to happen. Or you could say, all right, this is what I'm seeing happening. How could I make myself valuable? Life happens to help you realize that you are valuable. It brings me to your homework for the week. So, your homework for the week. For every problem you see, first acknowledge, being mindfulness, acknowledge that you see this as an issue. Second, realize that you could be the solution for this problem. Third, find your solution. I'm going to put a disclaimer now. I'm not a professional in psychology, or I'm not a doctor. I'm just an old woman. I'm sorry, I'm not an old woman. I am an aging woman sharing my experience and my thought process on day-to-day things, on how you deal with day-to-day issues. When I figure out a solution on how to deal with hot flashes when you're going through perimenopause, I will be more than happy to help. And if anybody comes across this video and have solutions for that, please feel free to put your suggestions in the comment, because I will gladly accept it. Talking about perimenopause earlier, I mentioned that you go through pains, and I remember I met a gentleman who is about 9 years older than me in that same view. And I have to share this quote. Life is what happens when you are busy making other plans. From John Lennon. I love that quote. Thank you, Lou. And that's something to remember. Life happens, but just because life happens doesn't mean you have to control it, because making plans causes you to control it. You have to go with the flow. Honestly, and I have to say, when it comes to Lou, I see that once you learn to go with the flow, oh my gosh, it becomes more happier. I'm actually adapting to that. Not everything is comfortable, but life has never been comfortable. Think about it when we were younger, when you are younger. And it doesn't matter if you're in your 50s, if you're in your 40s, in your 30s, or your 20s. You were younger at one point. Even if you're in your teens, which actually this is my videos are rated, so if you're in your teens, you're not really watching my videos. But even then, in your teens, you were younger. You were carefree. You didn't make plans. You went with the flow. Sometimes you make plans. Making plans isn't. I'm not saying making plans is not important, because some things in life you have to plan out. But sometimes if the plans aren't working, sometimes you have to let go and just let go and let God, or goddess, or what, or all, whatever you believe in. But I'm gonna say let go and let God. You tend to be happier. You tend to be less stressful. And as I was saying, with the body aches, now this goes for anyone going through perimenopause or an aging male. What I found helps, and that's with me doing my own personal research. So I did some of the footwork for you guys. Stretch in the morning, simple stretches. Before you even get out of bed, there are stretches I do that I tell you what, that back feels so much better. The legs feel so much better. I'm in a better mood when when I am heading to work and get to work, that I could focus more and I could be present. Um, Pain tends to distract us, and we need to shift our mind to let joy distract us too. Joy in the experience, mindfulness, joy in the now, joy in life. There's so many different things that could occur in life that could distract you and cause you pain. Family drama, work drama, friend drama, um, anniversaries, thoughts of those who are no longer with us. But you have to find the positive, because everything, good and bad, and we tend to forget that the bad, or what we perceive as bad, because sometimes what we perceive as bad is not bad. It's a wonderful learning experience. And if we tend to be more open to that learning experience, we tend to be more tolerant. We tend to be more enriched in our experiences in life, and we become more wise. So, as I was saying, your homework for this week, because it is an experience. We understand life happens and there are things that we just can't predict. God laughs when we make plans, but he's laughing because he has a better way, a better lesson, a better perspective. for us to move forward. Um, so when you hit those bumps, good or bad, find the positive, find the lesson, find the growth. Everything is for us to grow. Everything is for us to experience. And everything is supposed to help us see the bigger picture. I did say this was going to be a short one. Usually I'm doing buddy check after work when it falls on a weekday, but I had to do an episode this week. I really want to stick to my weekly schedule for everybody, and be more in the upfront. It's funny. I was watching a video right before this. I can't remember what it was. I wish I could remember. Of a sermon. Let me see. Give me one moment. Because I really want to share. I want to put the sermon in there, but I have to listen to it again because I might make it an actual. I might actually make it a. Is it? Oh, it's not here. All right. I might make it an actual segment. Uh, for those of you who are going through Lent, you're halfway there. In 3 weeks. You get to celebrate Easter, which actually Easter, the Christian Easter and the Orthodox Easter actually falls on the same day this year, which is a rarity. So you have that coming up. Spring, Mother Nature is playing tricks on us. Spring came and spring went. But remember, try to find the positive twist when it comes to those things when life throws you a curveball. When you think that, quote unquote, your job may become obsolete, make yourself start opening a book. Oh, that's one of the things I heard. A person, someone made the comment of, you spent a lot of money on a college degree when you could have just spent the time in the library studying on your own. If you can't afford it, you want to find that new skill that'll make you more relevant, then what I would suggest is get a book, read a book. If books isn't your thing, which I think it should be, but that's just my personal opinion, there are different things online where you could learn. I am not, they don't pay me for this. I'm not an advertiser. I am a fan of Udemy. There's another one with what begins with a C. I don't remember it. And they have anything you want to learn, anything you want to study, you could study. If you think you are becoming irrelevant, take your future, get power in your own hands, and make yourself relevant by going and studying and learning your new craft. And on that note, it's 7:30, so I have to I do have to work in the morning, and I would like to wish you a beautiful week, although I wasn't able to do it on a Sunday. A blessed week. To those who may run across that is going through today, I think it's either today or tomorrow, I'm not sure. It's the end of Ramadan. So Congratulations for going through 30 days of fasting the way you do. For those who are still going through Lent, stay strong for the promises you made, if you're Catholic, of giving up whatever you gave up for Lent. And for those who are not, who do observe Lent in a different form, I wish you the best in your studies. For those who just celebrated Astora, a spring equinox, don't forget to plant your seeds and prepare for a wonderful Beltane. If you have a community to suffer with, to not suffer, my bad, a community to celebrate with. Those getting ready for Easter, you're almost there. And for those of us who are still walking that spiritual path, be mindful, be true to yourself, and remember, you are special, you are a light, you are a flame, and let the light of God shine through you. On that note, I'm going to say good night. I'll see you next week. And keep an eye out for my edited videos as they come out.